All right, we lost the music early there. I like that stuff. It gives me a good vibe. Welcome everybody to another MSP Cyber Roundtable. Happy Friday afternoon. We have Barb here with us from CDN Technologies. We're going to have a conversation about building lasting and meaningful communities, which is one of my personal favorite things. I think without communities, we don't beat the Bears and Lions, and I'm not talking about the NFL team, although you're going to need communities to beat those two strong teams as well. So we're going to have an awesome conversation about that. Matt's got a great lecture for us. And on the way in, we were talking about birds as pets. And I've got a question for Barb. Do you know very much about bald eagles? And I guess, Matt, that also goes to you. And the answer can be no, but I think I saw a bald eagle in Ohio the other day, and I don't know if that's atypical or not.
I don't
I
even know where to begin with that.
I can give you
I think Matt will have
beginning,
some.
middle, and end of my knowledge in like 25 seconds, which is I sometimes spot them around here,
Okay.
and I know approximately where they live, but my eyes aren't very good, so I don't see them very frequently.
Unlike the bald eagle, your eyes are not very good.
Yeah.
Barb,
Like
tell us about your birds.
My birds?
Yeah.
Oh my goodness. So I have two birds. One is a cockatiel. His name is Jet. And the other is a conure, and his name is Kamikaze. And just to be clear, because for people that are listening, they all should know that these are my son's birds. That we got him as a pet because he begged and earned having pets. Um, but unfortunately, as with all parental pet owners of their children, the birds have kind of become my responsibility to feed them, to give them water, to hang out with them, to play with them. The first thing that people ask me is, do they talk? And I say yes, they do. It's interesting that the first thing that they learned how to say was, I don't know. And I think that they learned that from my kids. And they learned how to say yes. And I think that they learned that from me. So you could ask them a question and you'll either get two responses, yes, or I don't know. And the first thing that they learned how to sing was from the Breakfast Club. If anybody remembers that. So they can do that whole tune, and they can do Happy Birthday and Jingle Bells, things like that. It's fun.
That's awesome. I've never had birds. I once had two chameleons, and that was you were talking about the birds have some special schedules as it relates to their eating and their other parts of that. The chameleons ate crickets, which were noisy, hard to get, and I mean, if you could just imagine, it was just a freaking nightmare. Um, and they were about the stinkiest things I've ever had in my life. And I was 8 years old we lived in an apartment at the time. So it was a really interesting experience, an experiment. Um, so, Matt, what's the weirdest animal you've ever owned?
well, I'm thinking about my lizard story actually.
Oh,
So I'll do the tiny little lizard story. So I had a couple on Oli. I don't know how old I was. I was probably like 13 or something. Um, the little guys like this, they can just barely eat a cricket if it's small, but if it's too big, they like literally can't eat it. Um,
mm,
and I was on the pet store cricket treadmill, which, as you know, it sucks, right? Like you have to get to the pet store, which as a little kid is like impossible. You can't drive,
oh yeah,
and
yeah, yeah,
then and then you have to buy the crickets, and they're like a fortune, like for some reason, even though they're crickets. So I decided to go out and hunt my own crickets, and
yeah. Okay,
the,
resourceful, entrepreneurial,
sure, sure. What?
very,
Well, except for
very you.
both Anoli died in like 2 days from the wild crickets.
Oh no, they killed him. They killed his.
Yeah,
You got it too
I
big.
know.
Well, Barb, tell us a little bit about you. Tell us your background. We love to have people give like a little bit of their career background, what brought them to where you are now, as much as you want to give.
Whew, well, I'd have to say, me being in IT, how I landed in this career 25 years ago was a complete fluke. I went to school for chemistry and physics,
Oh,
and I really
that's cool.
wanted to work in the pharma industry. And
Oh,
I ended up getting a job in the pharma industry, and I was so happy. And then a couple of their products got yanked off the shelves, and my offer of employment was rescinded. And I was like, "Oh, well, what do I do now?" So I went on vacation and then came
take
back.
the first step.
Yeah, went on vacation, came back, and started working at a private vocational school that was selling IT training courses. And then I was there for about just over 5 years. And then I was invited to be a founder of CDN Technologies, and my career grew from there. The business grew from there. I
How
and
long have you been a founder?
how long have I been a founder? Since 2002. So
That's
I'm
a
going
long
on,
time.
yeah, I'm going on 22 years. I am officially uh, I don't want to say I'm unemployable because CDN Technologies, we look for work all the time. But yeah, I've hung my own shingle now for a long time. I've been an entrepreneur, a
Yeah.
business owner for a long time. My company is cdntechnologies.com. And what we basically do is we make life easier for small and medium-sized business owners. And we do that by eliminating their computer and technical and cybersecurity issues that they're dealing with. We implement systems to make sure that they can work faster and smarter and securely. We offer processes and different service plans for keeping their network safe, so that they don't have downtime and they're not exposed to rogue employees or data breaches or ransomware and things like that. We install their computer networks and um, add users to the networks and expand their networks and help them with their digital transformation, whether they're like currently in the cloud or not in the cloud, or want to get there or don't want to go there. We help with all of that. Like most MSPs, we become the outsourced IT department for companies that don't have any or enough internal resources to help them with their IT.
Yeah.
So they have the goal of, I don't want to have to deal with this. I don't want this headache. I don't want to be a victim of ransomware, or I want to make sure all my data is locked down. So we help them with that. We're located in Oakville, Ontario, Canada, which is just outside of Toronto. And we've been here for a long time providing IT service and support. We have a great reputation and great foundation. We're the first and only MSP to have our CompTIA trust mark
Oh,
accreditation. So yeah,
you and Matt are gonna have a really awesome conversation. We did not even know that. This is gonna be
Well,
awesome.
I didn't know who was at the front of the line, but that's exciting.
Well, yeah, for
So,
this call, we did not. I mean,
but I'm curious, Barb. This has been it's been like a not
that's
very
awesome.
closely held secret. So is it? Did the press release go out, or did we just pop the bubble?
um, you know what? We kind of just the cybersecurity trust mark accreditation, that is
Are you talking about Trustmark Plus, the
there's
most recent
two.
iteration?
The most recent iteration, we're just waiting for all of that to go through. But yeah, we kind of just popped the bubble on that one. The CompTIA Security Trust Mark Plus, the one that abides by the NIST cybersecurity framework, ISO, and things like that. That's the one that we have. It's super duper hard to get. It's a business accreditation. It took us a year to write it. There's only 3 businesses in Canada that have it, and we are the first and only MSP to have it. And it's been, I think, 3 or 4 years now. The other bubble, I guess we kind of to pop. I guess there's so many things happening at CDN Technologies these days. I have a whole list of things to talk about that my marketing person gave me. She's like, you have to mention this. You have to mention this. It's like, okay.
We'll get to them.
Yeah. Art, when you go back for the post-mortem, tell your marketing person that Zach is an expert at asking questions and leading through these, and I promise we'll give you opportunities to talk about all the important things.
Well,
be gentle. It's Friday afternoon.
Yes. Well, before we get too far away from her story about her, I want to ask her a question. Okay. So you've been doing this for 22 years. I think we have a lot of service providers that are watching, have probably seen you at events, and have seen you be active in the community and have seen you have success over a long period of time. And to be able to have success over 22 years, you have to be able to work hard. You have to be able to adapt to changing situations. You have to be able to be a lifelong learner. You have to be able to build a team. So I want to ask you, so everybody sees and understands that about you when they hear you've been doing it for 22 years and they see you around as much as they do. So the question that I want to ask you is this. In year 1 of being a founder and an entrepreneur, what's the same in year 22 and what's different from year 1? So what's still the same and what's much different from the beginning than it is now?
Still the same is that we're proactive. You know, we're proactive. We're not reactive. We've always been proactive in dealing with things. So that's from the company as a whole, because when you've been involved in tech for so long, it's always better to be proactive than reactive, because people that are reactive, they get themselves in trouble. So you always want to be safe and be proactive. So that part has been the same. For me, like what has been the exact same that I haven't changed like at all? It's the putting the customer first, being empathetic when you're speaking with someone that has technical issues, and that whole process of gathering information. That has been the same. And I can honestly say that I'm so grateful that it's been the same and it's been solid and it's been consistent, because I actually had Chris Voss's team reach out to me to work on a project. And that project was to co-author a book, Empathetic Leadership, How to Build Trust and Drive Results. So it's a picture of Chris Voss and me in our book together. So that's what's been the same. Like, just listening, being proactive, like being there, being accountable. Like that's been the same since day one. Like that's never changed.
I'm going to interrupt you before you tell us the thing that's changed, because I love some of what you said. Talking about accountability, talking about proactiveness, talking about empathy, talking about awareness of others, all those things. It's like, I grew up in the restaurant industry. That was there. I've worked in MSPs. That's there. Sports. God, if you're not thinking about, oh man, where's my right fielder in relationship to me? Am I going to slam into him and hurt the guy, or what's going to happen over here on this play? And you've got to be thinking, as you're a part of the team, what's happening with the people around me. And I love that you're forward on that. You said one other thing that's escaping me at the moment, so I'm going to let you go on what has changed. But I admire that perspective and that approach to things.
What has changed is all of the security protocols and the cyber protocols we have put into place, and that we make sure our customers have. And if they don't want to comply, then we're just like, okay, because in the beginning, when you're first starting out, you work hard. You're like, like every opportunity that you have to get a sale, to get a deal, like that.
I was with Fort Mesa. I was taking calls at 2 a.m. with folks in Dubai, doing everything that I could to build relationships and community, and be available for the sales. Just like you're saying, you've got to be ready and work hard at the beginning.
I was giving birth and I took a sales call. My husband
Lying
lost.
to me. You're lying.
No,
Really?
he lost it. It was my son. So my son is now 16, so 16 years ago. And I went into labor, and they gave me my epidural, and I was like waiting there, and you have your phone and things like that. You're in your room, and the call comes in, and I was just like, oh my gosh, I've been waiting for this. And I'm like, hello, this is Barb speaking. How can I help you? And my husband is looking at me, and he's just like, he's like that. And I'm just like, this is me, like,
yeah.
And I was just like, I was like, oh,
yeah.
And I was just like, you know what? Yeah, okay, yeah. I'll send over the document right away. Yeah, we could do that. Like, yeah, no problem. We'll be there and things like that. Yeah, I have Jason right on it and things like that. And the nurse is like, she's right about to talk to me, and I'm just like, zip it, like, don't talk. My husband's like throwing his arms up in the air, and I was just like, well, you know what? I'm just heading out to an appointment. Is it okay if we continue this conversation a little bit later? And they're just like, yeah, sure, no problem. It's like, perfect. Like, you know what? Like, see ya. And I like made, you know what? We'll be there. Like, set the date up on the phone. Like, boom. This is me. I was like, you know what? Then it's to the office, and then my husband just took my phone, and he's like, that's enough. And I was just like, you know how long I was working on that?
Yeah.
And I was like, that's gonna pay for this child, like, in the university.
That's what
it's one of those stories that we don't talk about, like, because it's not.
You should talk about it more. What are you talking about? Now you
got Barb, there's some other business owners on this like watching right now.
Who's on here? Like, I know that we attract a crowd and things like that. Anybody we know? Anybody we should give a
I don't know. Well, we can. I can throw up the. Well, we're gonna do a lecture, and then I'm gonna throw up
everybody.
The hello thing.
I remembered what I wanted to say, and then I'm going to ask you a goofy question, and we'll do the lecture. You showed that book. I love the idea of empathetic leadership. It's not something that is atypical in corporate culture in particular, and I don't think it's particularly strong in the tech space. I think a lot of our leaders in tech need the depth of knowledge. So you have to go really, really deep down a technical domain to be able to be a leader in the tech space. And when you spend a lot of your time in education going into some depth, if you've got a doctorate in physics, for instance, you're maybe not going to have the strongest sales skills, the strongest marketing skills, because you've spent time focusing on something that's technical and valuable, and that's how you've become a leader in the space. So I know from firsthand experience, not with any of our partners, but with firsthand experience of MSPs, that there's many, many opportunities in the space for empathy and leadership. And I was making a joke there. So plenty of our partners have opportunities there, but none in particular more than the others. So thank you for sharing that with us. And then the goofy question: in the past 2 weeks, what is the best meal that you've had?
Oh, you know what? I had the world's best cheese pizza that is like officially the world's best cheese pizza because it won a competition in Las Vegas, Nevada for world's best cheese pizza. And it came from a pizza shop local to me in Hamilton, Ontario called Cowabunga. I had their cheese pizza. It was the best cheese pizza I've had. When you're in the mood for good crust was perfect, cheese was perfect, everything.
Do you like a lot of cheese or just enough?
I feel like I should make a Chester Cheeto joke. It ain't easy being cheesy.
I think you just did.
Okay, perfect.
So wait, Zach, do you know about this Las Vegas pizza? Like, is this a thing that's like big in the? Zach has some pizza history. Barb.
I don't know. I don't know. I mean, every city kind of does their like our
Well,
best pizza.
the question I'm thinking to myself is, how does the pizza get to Las Vegas?
They made it
Like,
there, I guess. They
okay,
made it
so
there.
the whole they send the teams,
Yeah,
and
it's
it's
like
like,
a whole like food
Yeah.
competition event and things like that.
Well,
Where you
Domino's
bring the
Pizza does a
judges.
fastest pizza maker competition, and they literally every franchise and every corporate area elects a fastest pizza maker, and that they can either do via competition or not. And then it's like publicized. They do a world's fastest pizza maker, and I've seen a kid. There's this guy in Ogden, Utah. He I've seen him make a pizza from a dough ball to a fully stretched 14-inch sauce cheesed 40 pepperonis in 9 seconds. That means nothing to you guys. That's so
I,
fast.
well, I know
Imagine just
I
counting to
literally
40 in
can't imagine it.
9 seconds.
I
Barb is on
literally can't even
Instagram.
imagine that.
Oh, you know what? We're in a world where as soon as you hear the sound of that click, which is less than a second, people's lives change. So 9 seconds, that's like an infinity.
Very fair. Very spoken like a true security technologist. I respect that. Matt, let's do a lecture.
All right, let's do it. We're gonna jump in and talk about mapping buying appetite to service bundles.
Let's go. Oh,
So, let me get the right view here. There we are. We got some heads. So, I want to talk about the buying experience. You know, some of our customers think they know a thing or two about cyber, but your average end client, um, they just have cyber hunger. To be more specific, sometimes they feel like they should be doing something about the fact that they feel a little unsafe, and sometimes they don't feel like they should be doing something about it. So either it's because they think there's pressure on them, or they don't think there's pressure on them, or they think they're at the right level of safety, or they don't think they're at the right level of safety. So when you're in the sales world, and you're sizing for your clients, you really need to have some context there with what are they feeling right now. And I say feeling because if you're working with a business that has a really strong enterprise risk framework, and they run off of annual assessments of all the areas of their business, and they have KPIs and metrics, and they bring in auditors in all sorts of areas. They're maybe going to be calculating their way into their cyber investments, but most organizations, it's from the gut, right? Like the business owner or the contact with the client, they inform themselves as best they can, and then they make a decision. And so, in any case, if your client is in that space, right, and they're thinking about how hungry they are, how much security they want, this is about the level of complexity that they have in them. They want the minimum level of security investment. I mean, they want to know they're safe, right? They want to know they're safe. They want to know they want to know you're doing your job. They want to know that like their systems aren't going to go kaput tomorrow, but they want the minimum level of security investment. Or the next emotional place to go from there is, well, I want to make sure I have the normal amount of security. And people will normally relate to others. They'll say Joe across the street. The national NIH will like have some HIPAA recommendations. Maybe people will look to a financial services regulator and say, hey, I'm supposed to have this thing. So when they think normal, they're always relating to others, right? And then there are customers out there, and there's not a lot of them, right? But they can never have enough security, and you can sell them pretty much anything. And so in those scenarios, it's your responsibility to really, allow them to invest up to their comfort level, but make sure they do it in a smart way, right? So as a provider, how do you do that? I think prior to cyber compliance taking over the world, there was a lot of different methodologies, but cybersecurity standards these days have some very, very clear recommendations and methodologies. And so what I'm talking about right now is security baselines. I'm showing that on the screen here: low baseline, medium baseline, high baseline. These are things that have already been cooked up in the industry. They match up with, I want the minimum amount of security. I want the normal amount of security. I want the high amount of security. And there are some pre-cooked baselines out there. And many of our listeners have heard of things like CIS controls, and they have different groups: IG1, IG2, IG3. In the government space, we have NIST 853, and there's low, medium, and high. But as a provider, you oftentimes have to get a little bit more creative. These industry standards have these preset ideas of what low, medium, and high are. And you have to figure out for your customer base, what is low, medium, and high? Like if you're working with, I love dentist offices as an example, right? Because they're all very similar to each other. It's a really unique, a unique place in cybersecurity, right? The businesses have HIPAA, but not a lot of pressures. They all have the same types of machines in their offices.
Let me interrupt for a second.
Yeah.
You're right, obviously, but to people who haven't worked with dental offices before, how come they don't have a lot of pressures, but they do have HIPAA, and why is there a scale there?
They're small. They're small. In other areas in healthcare, you can have an independent doctor, or that doctor can be embedded in a doctor group of thousands of doctors. They can be in a building all by themselves, or they could be in a hospital with a large IT system, right? And so because there's all that diversity in most of the healthcare space, the requirements, frankly, a lot more, they're a lot bigger. But in the dentist space, which is still HIPAA regulated, all the dental offices are pretty much the same size. It's all about getting close to your patients, right? You really just need one dentist, a few hygienists usually, a couple office clerks. That's pretty much the office staff. And while they're regulated at the same level, the regulators, for the most part, don't bother the dentists because they're too small. And the dentists all hang out with each other. They don't hang out with people in hospitals. So when they compare to people across the street, right, everyone's also a dentist, right? So if you think about a business like that, you're still going to have low, medium, and high, because you're going to have dentists that want the minimum security investment, the normal amount of security investment, and the high amount of security investment. And for a dental office, those things are probably, because they're in healthcare, the minimum's a little bit higher than some other small businesses, but the maximum is also lower than a lot of small businesses. There's this narrow band, but you still have to understand from an emotional reality perspective, they fit inside the minimum, normal, I can never have enough mentality, right? So as a provider, if you're going to be creating offerings for your clients, and I'm using this 3-tier standard here, but there's lots of ways of doing this. You could do big, small. This is a low, medium, high. You could do a base package, and we've got a couple upsell options. But the point is that you really need to think about your audience, who you're selling to, what is their life like, what are the actual security pressures on businesses like them. And once you're there, you can then create baselines. And now I know a lot of clients have a lot of providers have what they call a stack, right? The MSP stack, the security stack, which is really just a bunch of products, right? But what I'm talking about is the actual security value you're delivering, which is a lot of people. It's you. What are the things you're doing for your client, right? And you should be mapping those things to compliance standards. A little bit of security, a medium amount of security, a lot of security. You should be relating those back to real standards, because then you can tell all of your clients, we are NIST compliant, we are CIS compliant, etc. And then, of course, you can map that, into a sales matrix like this, right? Once you have those baselines, right? And this is a little more complicated here. What we've got are actually 6 different SKUs, but you can see how with 6 SKUs, I can cover undermanaged, under 20 seats, right? General security concern, no additional cyber investment, right? All the way up to a 500-person, highly regulated bank or hospital, right? With just 6 SKUs. So the reason I wanted to bring this up is a lot of partners come to us and they say, how do I price my services? How do I get the cyber message out to my clients to buy? And you really just need to be thinking about their experience, that they're popcorn buyers, right? So how do you take that and make that simple for them? You have to take your technical value and your human value. You have to tie it back to service tiers, service offerings, which may have some software in them, but they're backed by people doing things. And then you have to figure out for each client which options might make sense, right? You'll see in the first column here, under 20 seats, there's 4 options, right? So if you're under 20 seats, I put 4 options here. But if your client has regulatory impact, you really have to tell them, hey, you know what? You're really supposed to be in the bottom end of this. So your minimum is really IG2 based plus, core bundle, and you don't have an option. You have to have that, or you can have more. You could add these other things. So high level, I just wanted to show this relationship between buying appetite, security standards. On this last slide, we see how standards have individual controls on baselines, right? And how that relates to service offerings for different types of clients. I did not want to go into greater detail today, but I thought that some people might find that useful. Barbara, I can't help but ask, how do you guys do it over there? Is this how do you find the right security value and communicate it to the right people so they can make the right choices?
Whew. Well, when you look at the customers that an MSP acquires, and you look at when there's so many ways for me to answer this question, I need to focus my thoughts. So when we first get a customer, they're either going to be with another MSP or they're never had an MSP. So either way, chances are that their network might be hodgepodged together. Because it's grown over time and it's a mishmash of MacGyver making sure that their network works, and security is an afterthought. That never works. So you have to have the knowledge and the ability and the tools and the experience to go in and take a look at the foundation of the business. And once you can see where the foundation of the business technically is, as an MSP, you can go in there and you either replace the foundation or you fix the foundation so that you can build on top of it. That's what needs to be done first. And once you have a solid foundation in place, you can decide or have the customer decide what is the best security options or security map for them to do. If they say, we don't want to do 2FA because we don't want them to use their personal phones, and we don't want to give them their phones and things like that so that they can get that auth code. Well, that's kind of like a basic of cyber security. You can't have it going to the same laptop that they're requesting the login on to their email. So if people are listening, I hope this is making sense. Is it making sense to you guys?
Oh yeah, but the thing that I know people struggle with is, how do you get the client to understand that?
You have to show them, and sometimes they're not going to listen. You can't talk tech. You can't speak geek to them. You can't have 2 RMMs on a network because what an RMM does is it reports back and does all these updates. You can't say that. They're not going to know what an RMM is. You can't tell them you can't have 2 BDRs on the network because they're both using VSSs, and it's going to interrupt writing and you're not going to have any backups. You can't say stuff like that. But essentially you can say, hey, you can't have 2 bums in one seat. one person, there's only one cook in the kitchen. There's only one chief. Like, who do you want it to be, and who do you want it to be responsible for? Like, you can break it down and parallel it so that they can understand. For us, we work in a lot of verticals. Like, we work in manufacturing, we work in trucking, we work in professional services, aerospace, construction. So essentially, those industries, they're similar and they're different. Like, like every business is different, every size is different. The security measures, the compliance measures are different. And what I mean by different is because they say, well, this compliance requires you to have this specific type of hardware. Okay. This compliance requires you to have, like, like it has to have this. So, but this one might be crappier and this one might be better. But the thing is your compliance says that you want this. So this is what we need to do, and so on and so forth. It is very much like a puzzle that needs to be put together. But as long as you have a good foundation, as long as you have a flat surface, you can make it work. You can make it work.
Got to have a wide base.
Before we move into question of the day, I can't help but see we missed this comment, or at least I missed this comment.
Yeah, I did a little. So I owned Domino's in PA, and obviously I know where Gettysburg is. But my initial reaction is to always think anything PA is on the west side of PA, because I was on the west side of PA. So obviously that's cool. Gettysburg is like a historic. It's a pretty historic Domino's to be moving that fast to.
Well, what was your time, Zach? We haven't heard.
I'm not very fast. I mean, I'm not 9 seconds fast. 30 seconds is about right where I'm at.
Okay.
It's probably not 30 seconds. Probably 45 seconds now if I was to actually have to do it. But Barb, how quickly do you think you could make a pizza?
Oh, that's pretty easy. I think Dr. O says, like, it goes into the oven for like 7 to 11 minutes in the middle rack for at 375 or 425. So
she was quick with that, man. She was really quick. You didn't go into the technical answer, man.
It takes
great shot.
It takes me about 5 minutes from a dough ball. So I don't know how, I literally can't imagine.
Stretch the dough balls. Where are you at with the dough balls? At the house.
All right, so I use a marble rolling pin, which I know is not like, I don't throw. I can't throw. I end up with holes when I throw. So I don't have that skill, but I do make my own dough sometimes. So
you probably need some cornmeal.
Is that the secret to throwing?
It gives the dough some more plasticity.
I don't.
A little tougher.
In the dough.
Yeah, you put the dough onto the cornmeal, so the exterior. So the exterior is covered, so the moisture is insulated. So when you put it on the table or you go to put it on your hands, it's not sticking to your hands and it's not sticking to the table. It's sticking to itself. So as you go to stretch it, it's sticking to itself and not everything else, because the cornmeal isn't sticky, and it allows you to fuck with it.
I still can't imagine the 9 minute or the 9 second pizza. It's like
crazy.
That kid
he used his elbow. He took and it's got to come out of the bed too. So he would like hit it and it's like in the air, and while it's in the air, he's like slamming it onto the ground, and then before you know it, he's got it like this, and then he's got it like this, and then it's down, and it's like. I'm looking at the guy thinking he's about to hurt himself. Like I'm over there, like somebody check his back, and then before I know it,
sounds like you saw Kyle Hansloren like from Huntress in action, like
that's
doing
what I'm
like
saying. Yes.
So I could just go deeper into this one, guys. Actually, it's
funny you say that because the kid's name is Hunter.
Have you guys ever watched
the God, his name is Hunter.
Have you guys ever seen that Rubik's Cube kid that could do it in like 4.5 seconds? Like, it's maybe it's not 4.5, but it's like the same 9 seconds.
Yeah. I have seen TikToks like that. I gotta look up Hunter's last name now so that I can send you.
All right.
No, he's real.
So
I think I'm just.
Barb, you've been building a community in your customer base, I presume, and I was gonna ask you the part of you bet. So let me back up here a little bit. When I talk to people that have been in a service provider role for 2 decades, if they've made it that far, okay, let's admit some people burn out, right? I meet a lot of happy people that enjoy their work and they feel value in their work and they enjoy their customer relationships, right? And I wonder if there's some kind of connection between that enjoyment and building that community with your client base and the fact that they can do it for 20 years. But we're talking about building lasting and meaningful communities, and I'm curious. Should we draw a box around? What do we mean by community?
Yeah.
Zach or Barb?
Barb, you take the first shot because I don't want to like the conversation, but I'll take a stab at it also afterwards because I think community is a big word.
All right. So I think it's a big word as well.
It's my second favorite C word. Cat is the first one.
Good save.
Man. I hope so many people see this and listen to this live stream. I really, really, really do. So they can see my true, authentic self in action. Like, you know what? And I think that that's the best part about being in a community, because you find people that are like that. Because when you're in a community, I'll use an MSP as an example. There are 5 things to a healthy community. There's your relationship with your vendors. There's your relationship with your clients. There's your relationship with your referral partners. There's your relationship with other MSPs, and there's a relationship with your team. And you have to make sure that all those relationships are positive and good and trending in a good direction. And the only way that you can have positive relationships with everyone is when you're your authentic self and everybody recognizes it. Then you establish a good foundation, a good reputation with everyone.
Trust, everybody's moving in the same direction, understanding. Sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off. Keep going. Forgive me. I shouldn't have interrupted it. I love it.
Thank you. Because like when it comes to vendor relationships, it's really important for an MSP to give feedback to their vendors so that their vendors know, that the vendors know what our clients are looking for and what they're expecting. And it's also important for the vendors to let their customers, like let the MSPs know so that I can let my customers know what they're working on, what's trending, how they're staying ahead of what's going on in our crazy cyber world today. And communicating that, you need 3, like everybody has to be involved, and it's very important. So maintaining that relationship with vendors with communication is great. The other one is, what did I say next? Clients, okay? Your customers have to know all of the things that you're doing, especially when you're taking a proactive approach with everything. Because when you're taking a proactive approach with everything, it's very important that they know that you're doing that they know that you're keeping their environment safe. And you have to be able to communicate that with them. Your customers are also a great source of referrals. Okay, so that helps grow your business. Other MSPs, you know what? It's good to communicate with people in your community so that they can share. I know for us, when there are other MSPs that have work in our geographical location that they can't get to, they reach out to us and we're there to help them out. I know that sometimes when they have technical issues that they can resolve, they reach out to us and we help them out. So those relationships that are positive and they're good, and we just keep them open and happy and moving forward in a positive direction. And then as for our referral partners, people in our community, we might never have done business with them, but you know what? They might know me from listening to me speak, you know what, from seeing me at one of their industry events. Like, you know what? I'm always there to answer the question, especially when they say, hey, I'm not a customer of yours, but I know you know this person, or someone recommended you. Could you help me out? And can you let me know if like this is real or not? Like I saw in one of your postings, like I keep getting this, like, is this real? I don't click on it. Like, people, as soon as you tell them that you're in IT, they ask you questions like that all the time. You get them. So we're always available. Sometimes they're big, sometimes they're little. One time I was at a Shania Twain concert, and the person that I was an invited guest. I was in a box. So I was like, I was thinking I was all fancy and everything like that at a Shania Twain concert. And essentially halfway during the concert, I got a tap on the shoulder. And I was just like, this business owner was introduced to me. And because he had just been a victim of a ransomware attack and he didn't know why he didn't have backups. He said that he paid a guy, he was paying a person, it was his full-time job to do the backups because they were running tape all the time. So his full-time job was to like change the tape for this organization. I know tape sounds like archaic and really old. It's a large organization. They have
lots. I'm sighing at the idea that the guy was expecting something to be done and the guy just was lying about it being done. That's the opposite of how you build a community.
He never checked them. He was doing the work, but he never checked them. He never spun it back up to see if it was working. So essentially,
he was just doing DJ, right? He was just swapping the tapes, literally.
Yeah, but that's exactly it. But essentially, here I am. I'm at an event. Like, you know what? I'm in
What's your favorite Shania Twain song?
I'm
gonna look too, actually.
I want to say, man, I feel like a woman. That's always a good one.
How do you even spell Shania?
Whose boots have your bed been under? That's a good one for me. She does a lot of the classics and things like that. She's Canadian, things like that from Timmins.
That's true.
Yeah. So
you guys got a lot of good music artists. I didn't mean to interrupt you. So you're at the Shania Twain concert. You've been tapped on the shoulder.
Yeah, and essentially,
old boy had a ransomware and no backups.
Yeah, so he wanted to. This happened to him. This person said, like, it was the same thing. Saw someone at the concert. It's like, yeah, I'm in the booth. Like, I'm in the box. Like, yay, and things like that. And I go and I talk and things like that. And I had to confirm everything that his guy said. And the relationship developed from there. But my point is that I'm not going to say. I didn't say. This is my personal time.
Yeah. Yes. I want to interrupt you. Can I? May I? Because I'm jazzed about a lot of the things you're saying, and I want to look at it from the perspective of the restaurant industry because that's where I have the most time building community. And I want to touch on a couple of things you said. One, availability, being there. So you said when people know you're in IT, they ask you questions. And they ask you questions that may not be immediately valuable to you, but you care about them because you've met them and they're a part of your community. So you give them the value of an answer without any expectation. And that turns into value down the road because you've built a community. These people trust you. In my time in the restaurant industry, I would always tell my team this. And there are probably people out there that are going to be like, I've heard him say it. You can call me at 3 a.m. and ask me my favorite color, and I would be happy that you felt comfortable calling me because I know that when you really need me, you're going to call me and there's going to be progress that gets made. Now, when people would call me in the middle of the night, I wasn't thrilled, but I was thrilled to be able to move business forward and to be there for my team. And, your closing managers are the people you got to take care of, the people that can't, if you lose them, or that's where the money's made at the end of the night, the bulk of the business. Being there for the people when you need them is how you solidify people staying as a part of the community. And I heard you say being there and doing the little things. And I thought that was amazing. Another thing that you highlighted was that honesty piece, that directness of having a clear base where everybody understands what the circumstance is, where things are, and being able to build from there, even if that means saying something uncomfortable to somebody, being direct, having to tell the guy at the Shania Twain concert, like, oh man, it looks like maybe you were taken advantage of here, or maybe you've been paying for service that's not equal to what it should be. Being able to have all those questions, or even if it's a sale conversation where you say, hey, we're not an expert in that, but I could pair you up with somebody who is, and here's what we are an expert in. That type of honesty with a team, with a client, with other vendors that you work with, that gives them the comfort of, oh, I can trust this person. And that's, I think, what helps community grow is that trust. And we're always talking about trust and security, right? Can I trust this? Can I trust this computer? Can I trust this network? Can I trust this person? And I think it comes down to that with communities, whether it's networks or the people around us, or the people on our teams. So I think I wanted to highlight some of those things that I loved that you said before you get too much further into what you're saying, because you're saying so much valuable stuff, and we're grateful to hear it.
My pleasure. Thank you for listening. Like Fraser Green, I'm listening.
Okay. Are you playing bingo? How are you doing on your marketing bingo card?
My marketing bingo
Oh,
card?
you said you had a list.
Oh yeah, that's right. Yeah, we're in the last 10 minutes. What are the we are in that space.
I'm pretty sure that
got into Authentic Barb. So everybody who sees this, the marketing, like you said, that's the truest marketing of all.
The reason why they gave me a list is because I always forget the company name, CDN Technologies .com, because I just start talking, because when I'm local here in my building, in my community, and things like that, I always forget my company's name. And it's interesting because my last name is Paluszkiewicz. It's spelled the exact same way it sounds, Paluszkiewicz. And people will not remember the name of my company, but they'll say, oh, Barb P with the long last name and things like that. There's like, oh yeah, that IT girl, like, oh yeah, I know she's got an IT company. I don't remember her name, but like, so it's so funny. So I have a list. It says like, make sure you say cdntechnologies.com so that people know where to find us and where to look us up and things like that. And make sure to let them know that we have our CompTIA security trust mark accreditation, like, to do that. Make sure that they know that our team goes through Disney training. She put like these Mickey Mouse ears out here for me.
So wait, what's Disney training?
Disney training for customer service.
Oh. I don't know this thing.
Happiest place in the world, brother. So they're probably a really happy customer to deal with.
So Disney has this thing called the Disney Institute, and it's all kinds of professional development and leadership training. Like myself, I do the Disney Leadership Excellent course all the time, and there's Disney customer service training as well. I do that as well. It's a getting techs to take tech courses and stay on top of their certifications and their knowledge. Easy in our space. Getting them to take professional development courses to make sure that they can be empathetic when they speak to people, customer service. Like, it's mandatory when you're working at CDN Technologies. So down the street from us is DeGroote University, and they offer training from the Disney Institute so that they go there and they do it online, and it's all about customer service. The reason why we chose Disney is because they have a really good customer service package, delivery, employee training manual to follow. Because Disney itself is recognized as Disney happiest place in the world. And they deal with all kinds of, for lack of a better word, crazy. So God, yeah. Me too. All kinds of strange things, and they teach you on how to deal with that, on how to be positive and how to be accountable and empathetic all the time. So yeah, every one of our techs, before they are customer facing, they need to get their Mickey Mouse ears.
If somebody gets sassy with a customer, do you make them wear those for the rest of the day?
Someone gets sassy with a customer, they get fired.
Good. That's the right answer. That's kind of what
I know that sounds horrible, but it's It's a zero. It's like bullying. Like, it's zero tolerance, because we all understand, like, what's going on, what's happening, and for us, it's routine.
They're in a moment of need and stress, and we know they're in a moment of need and stress, and yeah.
That's exactly it. And it doesn't matter if it's the, salesman freaking out because his PowerPoint presentation isn't, like, connecting to the board in the boardroom, and, like, everybody's there and he can't get it to work, and he's, and they're being short on the
I have a very distinct memory of giving a presentation off of an iPad instead of off of my laptop for like a whole class of general managers, and being that really stressed out guy calling the tech like, what do you mean you don't know the pin? So
yeah.
you're right.
Oh, I have to ask about the brand story though, because I can't help but notice that CDN looks a little bit like Canadian, right next to the maple leaf. Is that intentional?
Yes, we're Canadian Technologies. We're based out of Canada. We choose vendors that are predominantly Canadian. Everybody who works here is Canadian, because in our space, lots of things get outsourced to the US or overseas. Are you
Yeah.
Made in Canada.
But we're Canadian. We're
Very
Canadian Technologies. We're federally incorporated, which means we work across the country. And
Do you guys like Letterkenny? That's a yes. You like Shoresy?
I don't know who Shoresy is.
Shoresy, there's a spin-off of Letterkenny that's also hilarious, and I recommend you watch it. I've got some Disney questions for you, actually. We moved quickly away from that. How do you feel about Disney taking over Marvel and Star Wars?
I am a subscriber to Disney Plus.
Okay.
And there's always something there for me to watch that I enjoy. As an MSP, as a cybersecurity expert, I can relate to the trials and the tribulations that every hero has to reach success. Like, I can relate.
She's a real hero's journey fan.
Oh,
yeah.
Who doesn't love the hero's journey, Matt? Nobody's rooting for the bad guy. Who's your favorite of the Marvels?
Oh, right now it is Robert Downey Jr. I'm an Iron Man fan. Please let that be Marvel, because I don't.
It is.
It was until they killed him.
Whoa, what are you doing? Spoiler. Jeez. The hell? All right. Well, let's do takeaways now that we've spoiled Marvel. The Marvel.
Sorry.
God, sorry.
All right. I'm gonna go first because I didn't know Disney's content was available outside Disney, and now I'm very curious, and I'm gonna go dig on that because that's an active area of interest for me. So thank you for that.
My pleasure.
Barb, you're up, and then I'm going to send us into the weekend, or send us into the late hours of Friday.
What am I up for? Sorry.
You could say anything you want. It's a takeaway. You could talk about your favorite sports team. You could give like a little bit of like a little ad if you want. But you kind of got a chance to touch on that. So this is just like your moment in the spotlight.
Oh, well. If anyone's having an IT issue that they need help with, reach out to us at cdntechnologies.com. Our telephone number is 905-542-9759. Once again, that's 905-542-9759. If they just want more information about CDN Technologies or me, reach out, visit our website, cdntechnologies.com. You'll soon see, you'll be able to get a copy of my book, Empathetic Leadership, with Chris Voss, in addition to my first book, which is IT Scams, How to Avoid Being Ripped Off by Your Computer Guy and IT Services. That's available.
The Shania Twain concert guy needed to read that before the Shania Twain concert.
I send it to everyone, the IT Scams book. It was my first book. It's very, I think that's what got me the attention of Chris Voss's team to work on this project. I'm truly grateful for that. I'm grateful and I'm humbled. It became an Amazon bestseller very quickly. And when I was asked, like why did I decide to write this book? Because we're co-author this book with Chris Voss. Like why? Because as you said, it's not something that's talked about a lot or visited a lot in the IT space. And you're right, it isn't. But cybersecurity, it's everywhere. Everybody relies on their IT and their computers to just work. There's whole digital transformation was happening, but now it got accelerated. And it's really hard to say no when the world's foremost FBI negotiator from the United States of America invites you to collaborate on a project. It's really hard to say no to that.
Very cool. Well, very exciting. It's no surprise that you're able to build awesome communities with the way that you approach things. And I think any MSP that's getting started or is part of the way down the road and realizes that they're struggling building a team or struggling retaining clients long term could value from reaching out to you and learning some of the things that you do to have success, or just maybe watching from afar because you're doing the things necessary to be a leader in the industry, and you're making Canada proud, and you're making the tech industry proud for sure. So thank you so much for coming on. Awesome conversation. Next week we're going to be having Bob Kopich, who also is the Cybersecurity Trustmark program. He has a podcast as well. Matt and I went on that for the first round of it. So if you haven't checked out Bob's podcast, Matt, what's it called? I should say the name.
Oh, Bob Kopich. I would have to Google this.
I'm going to go and look because the gentleman had us on.
The crotchety old geek.
But he's got... he would probably love that you said it like that.
He's self-declared, that's for sure.
Bob and I have done presentations together. He's fabulous to listen to, has great stories. You should ask him the story about his employee and pornography.
Oh, God.
Like that. God.
Well, it's Biz Tech Solutions, our Biz Tech Twists podcast. So he'll be on next week. We're going to talk about getting the ego out of cyber expertise, which I think is a really important. It goes along with this, empathy and community building. Matt, I cut you off there to finish the thought about Bob's podcast and him coming on next week. What were you about to say?
Oh, yeah. I had it. I finally Googled it. It's Biz Tech Twists, but you're right. The subtitle is Crotchety Old Geek.
Hilarious.
And that Bob's self-declared there, but he's a sweet guy, actually.
Yeah, he's actually one of the more empathetic people that he's very good with. So many people utilize sarcasm to make others uncomfortable. He utilizes it with himself to make everybody feel like they're all on a level with Bob. And I think Barb, you can probably attest to this. Everybody feeling like they're on the same level and being able to communicate is good for communities. And Bob does he's got a unique way of doing it that I don't think I could emulate or imitate. But it's a hell of a skill. He makes people feel comfortable. He knows how to make people laugh. He's willing to be the butt of the joke. Bob's a hell of a guy. Barb, you're a hell of a gal.
Thank
Matt,
you.
You're a hell of a dude too. And I'll see you guys next week. Happy weekend.
Happy
Enjoy
weekend.
summer.